All right, we are live on YouTube, and now I'm going to start this baby. Hey, everybody, I'm going to let you in one at a time.
It's Nicole.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
All right, well, I've given you all the opportunity to join us as a panelist if you so choose. And otherwise, here comes a few people, I think.
Matt, you want to
Ready?
update the chat to everyone?
Right. Do that. Hi, Ron.
Hello, Matt.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Hi, Dove.
It looks like David shrunk up. Something happened to David. He got small. Oh, there he is. Well, we'll give it another minute to let people come on. As always, it takes a couple of minutes to join. I've given you all the opportunity to have your faces shown if you so choose, but you can all have the opportunity to speak, and I'll give the rules on how we're going to do this in just a few minutes.
Hey, Matt, can you see my face?
No, should I?
I don't know.
Let me make sure that you are promoted to a panelist. Are you calling in?
No, I'm on a Zoom tablet.
All right, but I don't see you listed for whatever reason. Are you under somebody else's name?
No.
Oh, there you are. Hang on. There, I just sent you a start video
The
thing.
host has asked you to start your video. I'm going to
There
push
you
OK.
go. Okay, there
All
you are.
right, there it is. I see myself.
Thank goodness we can see the top of your head. Oh, there's the rest of you.
I turned the tablet around, so better profile.
Hang on, I've got to do a couple things here. Okay.
Thank you so much for inviting me on to be a panelist. I appreciate it very much.
You're welcome. Welcome.
Real quick question, if I may ask, how are things going with the rent stabilization?
Well,
Is
we
it
happen
moving
to have a
along?
key member of that operation on. When we get started, Ron, we'll get into some of that.
Okay.
All right, then let's get started. Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Losak. I'm the co-founder and executive director of the Montgomery County Renters Alliance. Tonight, we're going to have an open forum. That is, we're including everybody as a panelist if you so choose. We also have with us tonight the manager of the Office of Landlord and Tenant Affairs, Nicole Katravanos. And she will be listening in and offering her expert advice on issues having to do with renters and, again, what services the Office of Landlord and Tenant Affairs offers. And when we get to it, we'll also be able to discuss, to the extent to which she can, whatever updates there might be on the rent stabilization bill. Tonight, what we would like to do is to hear from each of you, if you so choose, to tell us a little bit about what your concerns are, what issues you're seeing in your building, whether it has to do with maintenance or code enforcement or your rights as a tenant, about the communications you're having with your landlord or property manager, whether they're good or bad, what's working, and ultimately whether you are part of a tenants association or would like to organize a tenants association, or any other comment that you'd like to make that we can address. We ask each person when they're speaking not to take up more than 1 or 2 minutes so that we can give everybody an opportunity to speak, and we'd have a minute or so to address any questions or concerns that come up. I'm going to go literally, and my staff, Emily Towie, David Mullins, and Pat Beckham, will go through, and we will go through basically, the boxes 1 through. So you don't really need to raise your hands. We will just go from 1 all the way down the line until the bottom. And if anybody has any reaction to what's being spoken to or has an additional question, you can put it in the chat. And also, you can always contact us independently at info@rentersalliance.org. INFO, information, info@rentersalliance.org. But let me also quickly welcome the manager of Landlord and Tenant Affairs, Nicole Katravanos. Nicole, did you want to open up with any remarks?
Hi, everybody. Good evening. Matt, thank you so much for having here, for all the work that Renters Alliance does to support tenants in the community and to work with the department. Look forward to listening to what the reality is that everyone's facing and be a resource to you as much as possible.
Thanks, Nicole. So I'm just going to name names here since your names are listed up here. And if you care to speak, you'll need to unmute yourself. And if we don't hear from you, we'll just go on to the next person. And eventually, some of you all have your hands up will be gotten to. So I'm going to go first to June Henderson. June, you're first in the box. I'm sorry. Scratch that. I already screwed up. I'm going to go to Ron Schlesinger, who is the first to arrive, and turn to you, Ron. What can we address for you? What issues or concerns do you have? And welcome.
Thank you so much, Matt. My name is Ronald Schlesinger. I live at the Grand Apartments in North Bethesda, Maryland. We do have a tenants association, although it is on shaky grounds, unfortunately, right now, because we have lost a number of key board members for various reasons. We do have some issues with management. They have decided unilaterally to get rid of our valet service, which helps the elderly unload their groceries and park their cars. And in spite of the fact that we have around 200 plus tenants signed the petition to keep the valet service, management unilaterally has decided that they're just going to get rid of it. And I've seen evidence that that is actually occurring sooner rather than later, and that visitors will have to now park their own cars and no help in for the elderly, even though we have a decent number of elderly tenants in our building. So yeah, that's sort of it.
Ron, you know, the Renters Alliance is there to help you at any time to help reform, strengthen your tenants association. All tenants associations rise and fall sometimes and rise again. And there are probably new tenants in the building that might be interested, and anything we can do to support that, you know, we're available to you and the residents over at the Grand. I think when we discussed this before, the question I had was whether or not the services that you are talking about being reduced were ever advertised as services available to tenants who lease there, or whether they're in the whether those services are provided in the lease and that you pay for them.
I can answer that fairly quickly. It's not in the lease. It's not anywhere mentioned per se. In a handout which was distributed to my neighbor who moved in 2 years ago, there was on one side of the paper a list of amenities and valet service was indicated, but apparently management has decided that that is a service that they no longer want to pay for, and so they're just going to get rid of it.
Nicole, is there anything to the tenant's rights if something is advertised as something that comes with your tenancy that suddenly gets removed? What standing does a tenant have in that circumstance?
So the first question that Matt asks is obviously kind of the most important as to whether or not that service is in the terms of your lease. Because if it is listed in the terms of your lease, then it's a right that you have as a tenant, and it's part of a service that's being provided with your rent, essentially. If it's not a part of the lease and it's being advertised or has been advertised, essentially it becomes a consumer protection matter. That they, potentially, if in the past they had advertised this as a service, and now they are not providing the service, so long as they don't continue advertising the service, then technically there's no consumer protection issue. But if they are continuing to advertise the service, whether it's on their materials, on their website, but they're not providing it, then you have a strong consumer protection for false advertisement. And the Montgomery County does have a consumer protections office that you can look into for that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
And it's not the first time I'm hearing of services being reduced in an effort to cut costs. Just wanted to put that out there. You're not the only tenant that is experiencing that reality.
And of course, they reduce the rent the moment they do that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that's all I have to say. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Ronald.
Okay, let's move on to our next person, June Henderson, if you'd like to share what's been going on.
Good evening, everyone. I'm June Henderson. I don't really have any problems where I live. I live downtown Silver Spring. We're a smaller building. Most of the neighbors, we know each other. We're cordial. We help each other out. And of course, I have to commend Renters Alliance for keeping the community abreast of the rules, the regulations, any new information that's out there with regards to renters and housing. You guys do the job. And I thank Matt, the staff, and the directors for doing that. I'm an advocate for the homeless. I am also with the Interagency Commission for the Homeless. And there's one issue that I will be working on, and it may be different or difficult. I don't know if anyone has any input on that. And that is, how do we change the laws with regards to eviction, where we're no longer putting individuals' items out on the curb? That's the only thing I'm focused on.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people, us included, definitely share that concern. A couple town halls back, we had a guest, Matt Hill from the Public Justice Center, a lawyer who came to talk to us about some upcoming legislation in the Maryland State Legislature, this session starting in like a week or two. And I can't remember the bill number if anyone else does, but what it proposed was for tenants to have like an extended window of like up to, I think it was 10 days, where they would be able to go back and retrieve their stuff. So their things aren't put onto the curb, and they also don't have to deal with like that whole situation. So we're keeping our eye on that, and are going to be advocating for that bill. Might call for testimony, and we'll call on you guys to go to Annapolis if you feel passionate about it, to testify on why they should pass that bill. But we'll definitely keep everyone in our list updated on that bill.
Okay, thank you. But Matt, I'm with Friends of White Oak also. I did see you at the last, National Night Out?
Yeah, well, you also probably saw my staff dancing.
I was
so,
sitting next to you. I just, I try to stay abreast of things that are going on. Even though I live downtown Silver Spring, I lived in White Oak previously. So I just try to stay abreast and help others. But I appreciate you guys.
We appreciate you, and we thank you for your activism and your passion on the issue. And we will follow up on this legislation that Emily pointed out. It
Okay.
is pending this term. Pat, do you want to introduce the next?
Thank you.
You're on mute, the old mute problem. Still on mute. Okay, well, in that case, I'm going to introduce.
Hi, good
There we
evening,
go.
Evelyn. Welcome, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Good evening. My name is, and Happy New Year to
same
everyone.
to you.
Happy New Year to
Thank
you
you
too, dear.
so much, Renters Alliance team, for everything that you do. Is very, very much appreciated. And Miss Nicole from the OLTA office. My name is Evelyn Huey, and I was a 2023 graduate from the Community Action Institute program. And one of my pet projects was affordable housing. And in conjunction with unhoused individuals and families. I did get a chance to testify on April 13th before Montgomery County Council regarding affordable housing and in support of one of the bills that support, rent control and rent stabilization. I have a question, but I also want to say something in regards to the eviction. I thought in one of the town halls previously, they said that even if the sheriff is there to serve the eviction, if you have the money that you owe for the rent, are they required to take it? And that stops your eviction? Even after everything that has happened, the court, you're getting the notice that you are evicted, you have to vacate the property. The sheriff is there to terminate, to help you move or to put you out. If you have the money that you owe and you give it to the sheriff, they're required to take it, and that stops the eviction. Did I understand that correctly?
We'll kick that right to Nicole Katravanos.
Hi, Evelyn. Thank you so much for joining, for the introduction. You are correct, but it's a little bit more nuanced than that. Up until the date of the eviction, and personally when the sheriff is there, the tenant can pay to stay, but they don't necessarily have to pay all the rent that they owe. They just need to pay the amount that was issued in the judgment that went to the warrant of restitution. So,
Okay.
if, for example, you're getting evicted in August on a failure to pay rent for June, and let's say the failure to pay rent was only for the month of June, then on the eviction date in August, as long as you show up with the money for the June rent and it has to total the amount of money that's on the court order, then you can stay.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much for clarifying that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Nicole,
really,
can you give sorry, Evelyn, just one more thing. Nicole, under what circumstances does that not work?
It only does not work if the landlord has filed against the tenant for a failure to pay rent on their fourth turn. And that's called no right of redemption. So if the tenant has had 4 failure to pay rents against them, then at that point they cannot pay to stay.
Is it
okay,
4 or
when you
3?
say,
On the fourth one. So if they've had 3 and this is your 4th one, then you cannot pay to stay.
In a 12-month period, and in the 3 filings have to have judgments against you.
That's
It's
correct.
not just the filings.
oh, okay.
You've had 3
Okay.
judgments against you, and on the 4th one, as Nicole points out, the landlord can file to foreclose your right of redemption, meaning that you can't pay and stay.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. That's really, really helpful to know.
And
And
we
then, so
always
my
advise
question-
tenants to call the sheriffs and let them know if you plan on paying on the date of the eviction so that they're
Okay.
aware.
Okay, yeah, because they don't want to be blindsided when they get there, I'm sure. And that's okay. So my question is, and I know on a couple of town halls back, they were talking about the rent, the rent control and rent stabilization and the rent increases being in the double digits. So I had not up until this point been hit with that because when I first started renting at my current complex, I was under the MPDU program, the moderately priced dwelling unit program. And so we only had a cap of like 3% rent. But my property management has changed hands so many times, but it still existed. My rent did not go up beyond maybe $15, which I was grateful for. But now I'm being hit with a 12% rent increase. So it's like, how do you go from 12%, which is probably about $15, $20, to $185 or maybe $225, dependent per month, depending on a 12 or 24-month lease.
Are you still on the
So-
MPDU program?
No, I haven't been on that program in years because the next management or even the first management, when I moved in, decided that they didn't want to do the program anymore, but
Mhm.
they did allow me, because I guess in a sense I was grandfathered in,
Mhm.
to keep on that same track. But now it's a whole new ball game now. And I've been on that track for several years. I've been here almost 13 years on this property. So now I get the new lease agreement, and that's when it hits. I'm being hit with that. And
What's the percentage increase that they're providing you?
it's 12%.
12%. Mhm. And that's 12% off of the MPDU rate, base rent?
No, it's the rent itself, for example, it's $1,500.
Mhm.
And then it will go up either to $1,681 or $225 a month per month, depending on a 12 or 24-month lease. And I normally will do a 20. I think the 12, if I'm not mistaken, the 12-month lease is the $225 a month, and the 12 is the $180 a month. So, and I normally do a 2-year lease. So I was
How much-
wondering,
wait, sorry, do the numbers really quick. How much is your base rent and what's the percentage increase for 1 year? And what's the percentage increase for 2 years?
1,500
Mhm,
And then the 12%, because I think with the new lease it's saying 1681. So I think that's about a 12% increase
mhm,
for over 1500.
mhm.
And then the 12-month lease is about 225. It's 1700 and something. And
Mm.
so 181 per month or 225 per month. And I think the 12-month lease is the 225 increase, which is 1700. And the
Mhm.
12-month, because I don't have the information in front of me, and the 12-month is the 1681.
Hey, Evelyn, we'd be happy to take a look at that renewal and give you some advice on it. My guess is that the second year also has a percentage increase and that your total rent will be 225 more in the second year, but I'm not sure. So we need to take a closer look at that.
Okay. And because I know at one point they was asking in one of the town halls that people, if they got a double-digit increase, like in 2023, like May, some point in there, the new leases is to, if they didn't mind to send a copy of that to OLTA so that they can review it or just have it on record so that, once they start again, they can get some recourse and say, hey, everybody, the rents are going up now in double digits.
Yeah, I recommend that you file a complaint with us so we can review the rent increase, or if you want to submit your rent increase notice to Renters Alliance and they can review it. And if they acknowledge or if they identify a deficiency, then definitely move forward and file with us. And we
Okay.
can then have them reissue you the rent increase notice. And
Okay.
given that rent stabilization currently is right now in limbo, buying yourself some time might be able to make a difference as far as whether or not the rent stabilization bill will apply to you or not, or to that rent increase renewal or not.
Okay. Okay. Well, what I want to do first, I guess it's that's the obvious thing that, you guys would definitely, possibly maybe agree with me, is to speak with the management first and let them know, over the years, this is what I have experienced. And that jump, that's quite a jump. And then I've never seen that a 12-month lease is higher than the 24, because normally, even with the other managements that we've had, the 24-month was a little, well, was more, probably the same, I'm not sure. But I don't know about the 24-month being more, the 12-month being more than the 24-month.
Well, Evelyn,
Wouldn't
let
it be
us
the
take
other
a
way?
look at that. We're going to deciphering this kind of nonsense that we get from landlords and property managers. Let us take a look at it and we'll give you our best advice.
Okay, I sure will.
Yeah, thank you. David, who's next?
In the meantime, yeah, I want to keep it moving to April Wormley.
You're on mute, April. April, can you hear us? You're next. I'll give you you're on mute.
April, okay. If not, you want to go
Yeah,
down the
we'll go to
line.
the
I
next
see
one.
D Jones. If you have anything you want to share, if you want to, I see you're unmuted.
He's unmuted. Mr. Jones,
Can't hear you though.
can't hear you.
And we can circle back, April and
We'll circle back
D
if you're still
Jones.
around.
There we go.
Nope.
Hiwat Teferi is the next who I've got next here. If you have anything to share, and if not, I've got Jake Pauls after that. Again, if you just want to let us know any specific questions or concerns, and if not, that's fine too, of course. All right, we've got Janeth Lizama with a hand up. Janeth, you want to say anything? And if you wanted to, you had mentioned you wanted some interpretation, that'd be fine. Janet Swope?
Yes.
Janet, or is that Lisa?
Lisa Meyer, you next. What have you got?
Well, I have
Yes.
a question for maintenance, about maintenance.
Ah, there we go.
Go ahead, dear.
Tonight we had a maintenance guy come and to fix some things, but first off, when he knocked on the door, my boyfriend answered the door. He didn't identify himself. Was the first thing. He didn't say who he was. He didn't say he was from maintenance, nothing. I came in behind him because I just went to the office to put the maintenance request in. And he was like, well, you need to go in. I was like, yes. But he didn't say who he was. The other thing is he was coming in to fix the stuff, but he didn't say what he was doing. Like he replaced the light in our kitchen and just threw everything down, like made noise. And didn't say what he was doing.
Did you request that maintenance come and fix something?
Yeah, I told him that the light in the kitchen burned out. So
And
he
who did you
replaced
tell
the
that
light.
to?
Huh?
Who did you tell that to?
Oh, the office, the rental office?
And was it the same day that the guy came up or a different day?
No, it was same day, tonight.
Okay, and you've never seen him before?
No,
And he didn't identify himself as the
did
maintenance
not.
man?
He did not.
Did he knock on the door
He did.
and you let him in?
My boyfriend opened the door and let him in.
Okay, so, that's, you should talk to your boyfriend.
But he
Uh,
has to tell him, he has to say, ask him, who are you, right?
Right. It's your house. And if you have
Right.
somebody in your house who opens the door and allows somebody in, then that's what happens. Now, Nicole, just for the everybody's sake, can you go over what the right of access is for landlords and in what circumstances?
Sure, absolutely. So landlords have to provide 24-hour notice before entering the rental premises. And in situations with code enforcement, if they're entering to do with code enforcement, then it's 75 hours notice. It needs to be reasonable, so they can't, be requesting to come access your premises in the middle of the night or 5 o'clock in the morning. If it's not reasonable, then you don't have to provide access to the premises. But if it is reasonable, if it is within 24 hours, and if the tenant does not provide access at that point, then they could be at risk of breach of lease.
So this comes up quite a bit. So let me just add something to that. You get 24 hours notice, but if it's unreasonable, you should be able to communicate to the property management that, hey, I'm not going to be home that day, or if it's not an emergency, can we schedule something that's reasonable? And if they refuse to do that, then you have a good reason to make a complaint that could protect you from somebody entering your apartment. A maintenance person should always identify themselves, but if somebody else lets them in, I don't know what's happened there, but they should identify themselves. I'm sort of in a catch-22 because on one hand, I do want maintenance to let people know that they're coming. At the same time, usually the complaint is that they don't come fast enough. So they're coming. In this case, they came on the same day and they did the work that they're supposed to do, which is a good thing. But also, we sometimes see requests for maintenance or a notice that the maintenance is going to come up and change the filters sometime in the next week. And that may be fine with most people, but for some people like me, I want to be home when anybody from the property management comes into my house. They can only come in without notice when there is an emergency. And that's an emergency by anybody's standard of what an emergency is. God forbid, a fire or a flood or something else, a police-oriented emergency. Other than that, it's your private space. On the issue of breach of lease that Ms. Catrobanos pointed out, if they give you proper notice that they're coming on Thursday and you have no particular reason to say Thursday is not good for me, and then when they arrive at your door, which is your right to say you can't come in, you can block them from coming in, but you may be in breach of lease. That is a lease agreement that says if we give you proper notice, we can come into your home. And that means if you don't have a good reason, they could take you to court and say you're not letting us into the apartment to do necessary maintenance or some other justifiable reason. And for that reason, we want you to be evicted. So just keep that in mind, in terms of people coming in. David, I think we got back to April, pop back on.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Two things. The first thing is, I live in Hampshire Village, and it's under Humphrey Management, but someone bought the building and they never had a community meeting with us to let us know who the new buyer was and what they were going to do. Now, I've been here 3 years. I moved in September of 2020. My rent started out at $1,303. When 21 came around, I signed a two-year lease. And then my rent went up in 23. So she told me I didn't read my new lease correctly, that I was getting a 3% increase of $47. I always thought when you sign a 2-year lease, things stay the same. Maybe I'm out of the loop.
It should stay the same.
And she said if I hadn't done that, it would have been 5%. So anyway, it went up $47, and now I pay something like $13.67. Yes, and I guess I'll be signing a lease in September again, because then the 2-year will be over. Okay, that's one thing. I don't know. Does that sound correct to you all?
I can answer two questions. Well, first, let me just say, we would love to form a tenants association up there in your community. So if you're interested in doing that. What's that?
You know about that? They had one and it dispersed when someone moved.
Well, we'd like to come back. Tenants associations always need support. At least some of them, most of them do. A few of them are going strong, but some of them need support from time to time. And that's partly what we're here to do. On the issue of, sorry, what was the issue again? It was.
That I signed.
Right, the 2-year lease thing.
I signed a 2-year lease, and she said, well, you didn't read the 3% increase. Okay, so I read it. And that's why it went up $47.
Right.
The second year.
Right. 3%, by the way, is not bad. If you can get a 3% rent increase, I'd grab it. 2-year leases do not require that each year be the same as the first year. All it does is say that you now have a lease for 2 years. They can only raise your rent once in a 12-month period. So the first year increase has to be stated to you. And what the increase in the second year will be has to be stated to you in the renewal of your renewal notice. So you should be able to see first year is going to be 3%, second year is going to be whatever they say. But it doesn't mean that if you have 3% in the first year, that's the entire 2 years. They don't have to do that. We'd like for them to do that, but they don't have to. Nicole, anything on that?
No, that's correct.
Okay.
And
So
escalation clauses are common.
Are you familiar with the new, well, since Humphrey's still the management, are you familiar with the new owners here at Hampshire Village Senior Apartments? And they bought the building. Do they have any responsibility to us?
Other than by law, Nicole, what else?
Well, whenever a new owner buys a property, they step into the shoes of the old owner, right? So they have all the same obligations that your previous owner had with all the leases that they have with all the tenants in the property.
Okay, so it's still Humphrey Management, but I don't even know the name of the new people that bought it. They run the assisted living that's in this same complex. And I understand that their properties have lower rents. I'm not comparing it to the assisted living, but their other properties have lower rents. Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing is I'm disabled. I'm a senior. I'm 74 and I'm disabled. I talked to the Justice Department last year and I talked to them and I don't know why I got this letter. It was about disability issues on the property. And so my only issue was in my apartment, in which I told management 3 times. And once they brought some people in here to look at the situation. My hall, I have everything here is 2 bedrooms, basically. I can't access my hall bathroom because when people come in, if I'm in my bedroom, they have to close my bedroom door in order to get into the bathroom because the bathroom door opens out instead of inward. So the other day, something was wrong with my commode and the maintenance hadn't come yet. So in order for me to get into that bathroom, I had to go in the kitchen. In my manual, I have an electric chair too, but I couldn't get that one in there. In the kitchen, turn around, come back, close my door, reach around some kind of way, close my door in order to open that bathroom door to get in there. And then I get stuck. I kind of get stuck because because of the spaces, it makes the space smaller for me to maneuver between the walls and the doors, get in and out. But normally I use my primary bathroom in my room, which is set up handicap. I got that. I just
So
know they wouldn't.
April, what are you requesting? What could be done?
Well, I want the door. I want the door to open inward, just to take the door.
So Nicole, do you think that might be something for a reasonable accommodation?
Yeah, there's the American Disability Act. So if you have a disability, you can request a reasonable accommodation, and being able to access all your bathrooms, not just the one in your master, is still something that you should be able to do. So that's a request that you can ask under the ADA, the American Disability Act, and I encourage you to do so.
I would have to contact them.
You would have to contact the management company.
I talked to them. They
And did
even
you
brought
put it in
somebody in
writing?
here.
And did you say that under the American Disability Act, or your disability, you're requesting
didn't-
change in
no,
the
I
hinge
didn't
of doors
know,
so you
but I
can-
had an
because you're
interview.
limited?
I had a phone interview last month with the Justice Department. It was
Mhm.
about 30 minutes. And I explained everything to her.
And what they
And
say?
she said she would take it, I guess, to the next step. And I told the office, I said, I've already requested to you 3 times, and I'm speaking to the Justice Department. And so she said, well, okay, that's fine. Talk to the Justice Department. And that's the end of that.
All right, well, Ms. Wormley, do me a favor, because we want to move on, let everybody have a chance
Okay.
here. Contact us with this information. You can email us at info@rentersalliance.org.
Okay.
And one of our staff or myself will follow up with you, and we'll find out who this person is at the Justice Department and see what the status of your case is. And if they can't do anything, we'll find somebody in the county, maybe the Office of Human Rights, Nicole, I'm not sure. But whoever is responsible for enforcing ADA in the county or state, and we'll see what can be done. But thank you for
Okay.
your comments and concerns.
Okay.
Pat?
Hello, let's go on to Janet Lisserman, please. Janet?
Yes,
You up?
yes, yes. I speak Spanish.
I no
If you guys
hablo, but
agree,
David.
I can speak in Spanish and then interpret. So I can speak to her in Spanish, have her ask her question in Spanish, and then I'll interpret so everyone knows what the question is. Then I'll respond in Spanish and then I'll interpret that into English. Does that sound good?
Sí, habla, Janet.
Buenas
Sí.
tardes, señora Janet. Nicole Catriano de la Oficina de Arrendatarios y Propietarios. ¿En qué le podemos ayudar?
Sí, Miss Nicole. Lo que pasa es que yo he estado, me apunté a la reunión de ese día, ¿verdad? Porque recibí este papel sobre mi puerta, ¿verdad? De mi apartamento. Entonces, eh,
¿Qué dice el papel?
que dice sobre, tráemelo, que ya no me recuerdo. Dice sobre ayuntamiento, sobre inquilinos de la renta, me parece.
Dice que no ha pagado la renta y que están pusiendo una demanda en la corte.
No, lo que pasa es que nosotros tenemos un balance de lo que es de la renta de como de 3,000 y algo, porque no la hemos pagado, tenemos 2 meses pendientes,
¿Y por qué no lo han pagado?
porque fíjese de que mi esposo no ha estado trabajando, entonces solamente así días y no
Ok,
ha trabajado casi mucho,
ya.
sí.
¿Y han puesto una demanda en la corte o aún no?
No, todavía no los han puesto la demanda, porque pues eh, solo son, pero sí tenemos el balance que es como de 3,000 y algo y de fichas, como 3,079.
Ujú,
Entonces, ese es el balance que tenemos pendiente de 2 meses, pero tenemos esos 2 meses así de balance, pero estamos pagando como pagamos el mes pasado como el mes de octubre. Entonces, si ahora cancelamos, vamos a pagar lo que es el mes de noviembre, pero vamos a estar pendiente de diciembre y enero, los 2 meses.
ujú.
Sí, ajá, vamos a pagar, pero solamente noviembre.
Ok, ¿y cuál es su pregunta?
Si podemos, no sé bueno, porque decía ahí en el papel que sí podía obtener como ayuda sobre la renta o no es así.
Ya, voy a traducir su pregunta, interpretar su pregunta para que todos puedan aprovechar de mi respuesta, ¿ok? Dame un segundito, señor Janet.
Sí, gracias.
Okay, Mrs. Janet Lisama is saying that her and her family are 2 months behind rent. That it seems like they've received a summary ejectment notice, but nothing has been filed in court as of yet. That her husband was unemployed for a period of time, and now they can go back to paying, but they're having challenges paying the back rent. And they wanted to know if there's any financial assistance that they can access. So I'm going to respond to her and then I'll interpret. Señora Janet, en estas situaciones, típicamente lo que nosotros recomendamos es que vayan al departamento de salud y servicios sociales del condado. Ellos tienen fondos para ayudar. Y debido a que la cantidad que usted tiene no es tanto, porque hay otra gente que debe 5,000 o 10,000, hay una buena posibilidad que te pueden ayudar. Sin embargo, ellos típicamente no pueden ayudar si no ha habido una demanda puesta en la corte. Entonces, lo más probable es que va a tener que esperar hasta que el propietario pone la demanda en la corte y una vez que tengas la demanda, el papeleo, ahí te pueden empezar a ayudar con asistencia económica.
Ujú.
I told Ms. Jeanette that the Department of Health and Human Services does provide assistance, that 3,000 is a manageable amount in comparison to other tenants that owe 10 or 15,000. However, they are requiring, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a while, but they are requiring some kind of proof of filing in court so that when they go to DHHS, they should bring that paperwork with them and see if they can qualify for rental assistance.
Muchas gracias.
Ujú.
Bienvenido, Janet.
Señora
Sí,
Janet,
gracias.
le voy a decir a la gente de Renters Alliance que pongan la dirección de las oficinas del Departamento de Salud.
Ok,
y servicios sociales. Y así usted puede ir en persona. Can someone
Okay.
from Renters Alliance please put DHHS's offices on the chat so that Ms. Janet Lisama can have access to them, please?
Done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Miss Fatu, do you have anything you'd like to share? Just kidding, I was on mute. Calling our next person,
Here, Joe.
Fatu, Miss Fatu Samite. If you have anything to share, if not, we can move on to the next person. Miss Fatu? Okay, we can always circle back. Carla Gudger, anything to share? Carla, would you like to share any of your experiences in your building? Okay, we can come back if you think of something. Let's see who's next. Miriam? Oh. Okay. Jake Pauls?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I'll try to work in two things. The first one I hope is simple. It's a semantic question. I've been at a place in central Silver Spring for about 5 years, and I had a copy of the entire lease to begin with, but whenever I renewed, which has happened a couple of times since then, I asked at the time of renewing the rental agreement that I get a copy of the lease, and they said, well, you already have the lease, and they showed me my agreement to extend my lease, just a one-pager. So the question is, on the word lease, are they obligated to provide me with an up-to-date copy of the lease, at least when I renew my lease?
If you ask for one, yes.
But isn't it true, Nicole, that absent any changes in the provisions of the lease would be the same?
Yes, the lease would be the same. So it's a very common practice where they'll just give you a one-page renewal, and all the lease, they can't change the terms of the original lease if they're just doing a one-page renewal. But if for some reason you don't have the original lease, you have the right to ask for it, and they must provide it to you.
Okay, so that deals with the semantic issue. I just want to tell the story that after I'd been at this place, I've been there for about 5 years. After I'd been there 3 years and I renewed my lease for another 2 years, I came back to my apartment one day and found the dreaded yellow slip on the door, basically saying that I was going to be evicted. And this came 5 weeks after I had started my new 2-year term. My management had completely forgotten the fact that they had an arrangement that they would take the rent out of my bank account, and so for some reason that slipped, and I had no idea.
Thought you hadn't paid rent.
And so it boils down to the fact that apparently there was, maybe still is, no requirement for the landlord to inform you when, for some reason, the rent isn't coming through, and that they had a power to evict. Is that still the case, or have they gotten more rational? At least give a person a warning that something's gone wrong with the payment system, and we'd like to have you, sort that out. I had no way of knowing that because I travel.
I mean, it's not reasonable, right? You would think that there would be a more fluid communication between the management and their tenants. However, by law, the only requirement is that they provide to you what's called a summary ejectment notice prior to them filing in court. So they have to provide you a form that looks like a court form, but it's not a court form. It's called a summary ejectment notice for failure to pay rent 10 days prior to filing in court.
Yeah,
that's the only thing they're required by law.
And that didn't happen. So I gave them a few pieces of my mind over the last 2 years about that. I just thought I'd leave that with you as something that's
So they filed in court without providing a summary ejectment notice? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes. And I
And
actually
this
made
happened
my court-
recently?
Pardon?
This happened recently?
2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, and it took months and months for the for me to find out that they weren't going to press the case, but I never got official word on that either. And I actually appeared in the court on the day that was listed on the yellow sheet, and it was only sometime after that they told me that it wasn't being pursued. So there's
I
a real
think the summary ejectment notice requirement started about 2 or 2.5 years ago. I'm not sure.
That's right.
Do you remember the exact date that
No, I
passed?
don't remember the exact date, but I remember we passed it about 2 years ago, the
Yeah.
law that required that to be in place. But let me just add something generally, and something we've been urging the county to do for a while. There are lots of property managers out there that really just don't know what they're doing and don't know what best practices are, including what Nicole just mentioned about what's reasonable. Wouldn't it have been a good idea to keep you informed, to send you a notice or knock on your door and say, hey, by the way, your rent hasn't come through, whatever, to be a good property manager. We don't see, put it this way, we see a lot of bad property management and out there that and mistakes that could have been avoided if they knew what they were doing. And so we're urging the county to require that property managers and landlords be trained and certified in order to operate in Montgomery County. But that's an ongoing discussion and battle. Anything else, Mr. Pauls?
No, I appreciate your remarks very much. I just would add that, by the way, that this particular landlord is one of the largest in downtown Silver Spring. So
not surprised.
That's what made it so shocking for me. But anyway, I'm gradually educating them, and I appreciate all I learned from you folks. Have a great New Year, by the way.
You too.
Thank
Janet
you, Mr.
Swope.
Pauls.
Janet, you with us? You got to unmute, Janet, if you want to speak up. Give you 2 or 3 seconds more. Janet Swope, if you have any comments or concerns, otherwise we'll move on. Karen Rhodes, I know you're shy. We're sympathetic. You want to speak up, Karen? You're welcome to. Karen Rhodes, anything? There you
Anything
go.
in particular?
Anything you like. You got a minute.
I'd love to come back down to Montgomery County, but I'm afraid that this new law is going to discourage people from building there, and it's going to make it harder for people like myself to find places down there.
Oh. Which law would that be, Karen?
Say that again?
Which law would that be?
Oh, what do you call it? The Rent Stabilization Act?
Well, it certainly is something that some people believe will discourage building, but our data shows that in places where rent stabilization exists, building continues at a breakneck speed. So I think it has a lot more to do with the profitability of the region that it's in, not the law itself. In places where no rent stabilization protection exists, like in Baltimore and in Cleveland and in Detroit and a whole bunch of other cities, we don't see any building going on, and we see a lot of empty housing. So we're not sure which is actually the trigger that stops people from building, but we certainly haven't seen it when it comes to rent stabilization or any other renter protection networks. As far as whether or not they're going to continue building in Montgomery County, as far as I can tell, they're building an apartment building on every piece of green space that's out there.
In every jurisdiction now?
Yeah, pretty much.
I live in Gaithersburg, and there's a lot of places, I just don't see or hear of any, real
as far as I know, they're building like crazy in Gaithersburg. David, you're up there.
Well, there's some serious opposition at a lot of these planning, especially around Old Town. A lot of these planning commission hearings, if you want to pull some of them up, just to try to get historical designations and against multifamily, saying there's not enough parking. There's just a lot of that you hear at other jurisdictions too. So there are other roadblocks there. But I know the council certainly shares your concerns. that you raise. But all the studies, including the OLO one, all start out with there's no empirical evidence that it diminishes supply, and then they jump into the theoretical. And the federal government's not moving anytime soon, so there's just a lot of factors, like Matt said. I think.
Okay.
Do we want to keep
Okay.
it moving along to?
Yeah,
Yes.
Emily, do you want to go to the next person?
Yeah, Kelly Campbell. Any comments, Miss Kelly? No? Okay. Who's next, Matt?
Let's go to Marcia Bond, who keeps me informed of what's going on with renters in the news at all times.
Marcia, would you like to share? How
Marcia,
about
go ahead, Marcia. You're on mute if you're trying to speak to us.
Yes, hi. My only question is about rental assistance. And I'm wondering, is there any, like, I've seen a recommendation for people who are looking for housing and need assistance in the county. Is there kind of like a one-stop shop for them to go and get information about how to apply for housing assistance? I know that there's a number of funding sources, but not sure how one goes about that. I mean, I know there's this huge voucher waiting list. And so that's what I've had people ask me before, and I don't really know what to tell them.
So what we recommend is going to the Department of Health and Human Services as kind of your one-stop shop, because they'll be able to connect you to like other organizations like us and other nonprofits. And they also have caseworkers who can help inform you of the different programs. So there's an office in Silver Spring, a location in Rockville, and then one in Germantown. So we send people there who qualify for the emergency assistance program, who have like a court summons. Yeah, so that's what I would say.
And they also can call 311 and say that you're looking for rental assistance and be directed to services to prevent homelessness or other services in the county. And we also have, I believe, don't we staff a list of nonprofits that provide
yeah, we have a
Yeah.
little like a desk guide with Interfaith Works, who's provided a bunch of different organizations, and the grants they provide and like the requirements for each one, whether they need a referral or not.
So if you have somebody, Marcia, that you think needs assistance or whatever, you can certainly refer them to us and we'll direct them. But I do want to say something about your good comment about one-stop shopping. We are working on trying to get that to happen. We heard some encouraging language from Health and Human Services that about at least what they would like to do, which is to what they call no wrong door. That is, whatever door you come through, you're going to get supported. I know that Nicole Catravanos has got young children, and she has spent the first good hour with us and is a mom and needs to get back to her family. Nicole, did you want to add any, Marcia, sorry, let me just give Nicole an opportunity to say goodbye. Any other comments?
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Marcia. Just wanted to
Go
say,
ahead.
Thank everyone for being here tonight. Thank you, Renters Alliance, for the invitation. For anybody that wants more information on the rent stabilization bill, including what the timeline look like, we have Q&As. If you go to the Department of Housing Community Affairs, there you will find a link for the rent stabilization. In addition, if you have questions regarding landlord-tenant issues, you can call 311 and ask to speak with someone from the Office of Landlord-Tenant Affairs. We will call back within 24 or 48 hours. Or in the alternative, you can email us at ulta.intake@montgomerycountymd.gov. If someone from Renters Alliance can please put that email in the chat, I'd greatly appreciate it. And we will respond to any inquiries you have within 24 to 48 hours. And I encourage everyone to look onto our website. We have our landlord tenant handbook there. We have a number of pamphlets as well with informational things, including what to do if you're in the process of ending your lease, to make sure you're doing all the putting all the steps in place, including requesting a walkthrough so that there's a higher percentage of you being able to get your security deposit back. And we're here. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I hope everyone has a good night and that everyone's starting 2024 on a good note.
Thank you.
Nicole, much appreciated. And you're on the hook for as many times as you can join us.
And with that, we'll go to Mr. Phil Prolino. Mr. Phil? I think you're on mute.
That is if you want to have something to say. If not, no questions, he says.
Okay, let's go on to Simon Alexander.
Simone, do you have any questions or concerns? Simone Alexander?
Yes, I do. Hello, everyone. I have a quick question about a building where the outer doors to the building are always open. They're never locked for whatever reason. Either people break the locks or whatever, but like there's easy access to the apartment building. Is that something that the landlord should be looking at? I mean, it's a security issue because sometimes you have homeless people like wandering into the building. Someone on a group chat shared a picture of a homeless person sleeping on the floor in the building hallway. So that's a security issue. Are the landlords required to do anything about that?
It is a code violation. The doors on the front and access to the building, the doors are expected to lock, just as your doors on your own apartment have to have functioning locks. The right thing with any code violation or any maintenance issue, of course, is to first inform property management or the landlord that there's an issue. And if you find that he or she is not being responsive to you, then you have every right to file a code complaint with the code enforcement department by calling 311 and letting them know.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's move on to Teresa Welsh. Do you have a comment or concern?
Hi, good evening. This is my first time joining you. I'm really excited to do so. Matt, I want to first say thank you to you because I copied the Renters Alliance on a couple of emails to my management regarding an issue related to feces smearing on the walls in the hallway. And I think that they finally took action because I copied you. So your presence helped immensely. So thank you so much for that.
I like to know when they're scared of us.
So I live at the infamous Enclave. And so there are just so many issues all the time. There are issues. And I would say this is just to give you an idea of the level of some of the issues that happened. Last spring, I arrived home and my door was open. Like open, my apartment door was open, right? And so, of course, I was afraid to go in because I was thinking there could be someone in there laying in wait for me. I called security using the number provided by management and was told, oh, you should probably call the police because I don't know how long it would take us to get someone there. But they're supposed to be on the property. I did call Montgomery County Police. They were here in like 3 minutes. They went through my apartment. No one was in there. Everything was okay. Learned after that that the maintenance people had been in to do a repair and had not left a hang tag or anything to say that they had been in my apartment and left the door ajar to my apartment. So we deal with issues like that. And so there are just so many issues. Like I'm not going to go into them. It just made me know that I needed to be more active,
The cameras.
not just for my own sake, but also on behalf of other people who are renting like me. I sold a house and moved here right before I moved here like the weekend that everything shut down for the pandemic. And so this wasn't the greatest building at that point, but at least we did have concierge service. The doors did lock. And so all of those kinds of things that made me feel more comfortable moving here have since gone away. So thank you for hearing me. And I'm just here to contribute as much as possible as a possible member.
Thank you, Teresa. Yeah, I have to say, we have long experience with the Enclave. It has been if it's not on the troubled properties list, it certainly has been a troubled property for a long time. We have worked to organize tenants there. We have tried to form a tenants association with moderate success. We know that other organizations have gone there. Everyday Canvassing had been also trying to organize over there. And my understanding is that they got something going, but we're not sure about the level of that activity. But all of the things that you have mentioned, we have seen numerous times. I was in the building myself once, distributing literature, and there was a man checking every single door. And we were in another building, and we found the same man suddenly in the elevator with all types of groceries that were clearly taken from doors that were open from people's refrigerators. We have seen homeless people there. We have seen shootings there. We regularly see the doors not locked in all of the buildings, or some of them propped open with stones. And we have seen very bad communications with management. And so we feel your pain. Sorry to use the old term, but we do feel your pain. We are working with the county to try to increase the number of teeth that they have, so that when they enforce these things, they enforce it in such a way, not only do they solve the problem, but they hurt so much that it becomes a deterrent. So far, that has not happened. But in anything like that, if the front door's not locking or whatever, we urge you to file a code complaint, which you can also do anonymously.
Okay, thank you. I will do that. I can see that that's an education process for me. So thank you for saying that. I would be filing code complaints every day.
Pick your battles one at a time.
Yeah.
But if it's serious, let us know. We'll help you. We know everybody over there. We know the senior management. We know where they live.
I can't even tell you but the interesting thing is that this complex is just the right distance away from my job. It is the right size for what I need. So there are so many pluses, but there are also so many, this could be a great place, but
that is the tragedy of the Enclave. It was once a luxury complex, and it has slid downhill because of that kind of poor maintenance. So anyway, thank you, Ms. Welsh. We will move on now, but please keep in touch. Thank you.
Okay.
Yvonne, we're going to try to move quickly here. Yvonne Lyons. If you like, Yvonne. If not, we'll move on to Yvette Monroe. We know about you. Are you interested in making a comment, Ms. Monroe?
I just want to say Happy New Year. It is great to hear everybody, and thank you, of course, for all that you guys do on the Tenants Association. And I am looking forward to continuing our work and journey in helping the residents of Montgomery County.
Thank you. That's Yvette Monroe, a board member of the Renters Alliance. Thanks, Yvette. Good to see you. Nikenji, it's your turn. Nikenji?
Hi, can you hear me?
Can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for providing this platform. My question is regarding statutes of limitations. I had an issue with a place where I used to live where they changed management, and due to the change of management, they didn't honor my direct deposit, which means I only paid $300, but with the change of management, they made me pay like close to $2,000. I was wondering is there a statute of limitations that I could recoup that money, or is there anything I can do about that?
Sorry, that hit me really hard in the head. Can you repeat that problem again?
Yeah, I had, when I first moved into this apartment, I had an agreement, I had signed documents that my direct deposit that I would only pay $300, which I did to move in. And upon leaving the apartment meant that I had no charges. So, but that management changed over, and instead of not paying anything, I had to, in addition to the $300 that I pay the full charges for direct deposit, which was $2,000.
I don't understand what you're paying for. You pay $300 for what purpose?
That was all I needed to, instead of paying, I guess the security, I'm sorry, I see in direct deposit, security deposit.
Okay.
Instead of paying, I guess, which would normally be another month's rent for the security deposit down payment, my down payment was only $300. And in paying that, the agreement was that when I left the apartment, I would not be liable for any security deposit charges. But because of the change of management, I was liable.
Well, first of all, you're not liable for anything unless you cause damage to the apartment under any circumstances.
Right.
So have you moved out?
Yes, I moved out. This happened some years ago. That's why I was wondering, is there's a statute of limitations?
Well,
Because
there's a few things, and this sounds like something we should follow up on after this meeting, but just so you know, the security deposit law is pretty clear. It says that the landlord must provide to you by first-class mail within 45 days a listing of the damages done to the apartment and the cost, the actual costs, not the projected costs, but the actual costs of what it was to repair those damages. And that has to be provided to you within 45 days of your move out. Absent the landlord doing that, the landlord forfeits any right to your security deposit. Now, as to whether or not the landlord could sue you for damages years later, I'm not sure that that's the case. But even if they could, they'd have to prove it. And assuming that nobody else has been in the apartment in all these years, they'd have to be able to show that you did this damage. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah, actually, the statute of limitations I was talking about for me, because when it initially happened, I did come to you all, and you told me that I wasn't liable to pay the direct deposit if I could. I had already paid it, but it was a whole bunch going on then. I couldn't find the receipt at the time. I have since found the receipt, but of course it's been years later. So I was wondering, is there statute of limitations applying to that? To the fact, yeah.
And you go back and demand your money. Of course you can.
Right. Yes.
I don't know what the we're not lawyers. We just
okay.
Be sometimes, but I would think 1 or 2 years is not long enough for any statute of limitations to come into play. David's not a lawyer either, but he sometimes studies this stuff. David, is there anything you've ever heard of?
Well, it just sounds, I mean, I'm about to put the district court help center to come in because, yeah, but the stress question, that's a really good question if you did end up paying. So I'll put they have a walk-in at the address here. I'll put in the chat.
Yeah,
Okay.
my guess though, Nikenji, is that
Uh-huh.
you're entitled to get the money, your deposit back. If you can prove that you paid a deposit and they haven't provided you with any legal basis for taking that deposit, that you're entitled to it back. Now, if it were 6 years later, I'd be more skeptical, but 2 years seems reasonable, especially since you can make the argument that they said you didn't give one and now you found the receipt.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's
All right.
actually been about 6 years, so.
Well, we'll see.
Mhm.
Let us know
Okay.
if we can help. We will follow up.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Carla, did you get an opportunity to speak? Did you want to add something? If not, we'll move right along. Miriam Yarmolen. Miriam, did you want to say something?
No, just thank you for all the work you guys do.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
Janice Freeman. Janice, did you want to say something? You have to unmute if you do.
No, I'm not. I'm just listening. Thank you.
Welcome. Susan Williams, how are you?
Can they hear me? Hi, how are you?
Good,
I have
thanks.
too much to even say. This apartment complex is unbelievable. I ended up having to pay that almost $300 more a month. I had to sign the lease. I went through Will Jawando's office, Sydney Katz's office, like even the Attorney General, and they said there's nothing they can do about it.
I mean, the excessive rent increase.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the rent increase law has not taken effect yet, and we are very frustrated, but we're looking at late spring before it actually has any teeth. You know, again, it's a big improvement, but it is not helping a lot of us right now.
Well, once that was approved, correct? And then we're just waiting for what now?
Right now, there's part of that bill requires several issues to be resolved by regulation development.
Oh.
So they have until January 24th or 23rd, I forgot which the date, to present those regulations to the county council. Then the county council has to approve those regulations. When that process takes place, and there's at least a month or two involved there, then it can begin to take effect. But we're predicting probably April or May at the earliest.
Okay. I think we need a tenant association here.
Well, you know where we live. Send us an email. Let's get one organized.
I will, for sure.
All right. Good to see you or hear from you, Susan. Jeremy Mendelson, I guess that's what it is. Jeremy?
No, thanks. Just appreciate the opportunity to hear and the resources available that you're sharing.
Welcome. Mr. or Ms. Tompkins. Hi, Tompkins. Anything to share?
Thank you for inviting me. I've been listening for, I guess, a number of months now, and I just want to thank you and let you know I appreciate what you're doing, the service that you're providing. I've been well informed by listening in the past few months. Just to make a comment on that last remark about the increase on the rent, excessive rent increase. Is there a possibility that there could be a retroactive enforcement, I guess, after the bill is completely passed, or whatever needs to be approved and all the regulations are incorporated? Is there a possibility for any type of retroactive so that people who have had issues at least this year can be perhaps compensated?
No. Sorry for the honesty. And
Well, I
believe me, we
appreciate
are
the
sorry
honesty.
about it. Again, we have 15 years of doing this. We are delighted that the county has moved in a direction of providing a modest rent stabilization bill, understanding how revolutionary that was. But is it what we want? Is it everything we wanted? Nowhere close. It's not in effect yet. A 6% rent increase cap, when it does take effect, is still going to hurt a lot of people. And there are other parts of the bill that we are not pleased with. Nevertheless, there was no protection at all prior to this bill, and we recognize that. So, you know, justice turns the wheels slowly, and unfortunately, that's where we are right now.
Right.
Ms.
Thank you.
You betcha. Thank you for joining us. Ms. Gujar, we've skipped over you and you popped on quickly. Did you want to have a comment or concern? Carla Gujar?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I finally figured that out. I'm sorry, I'm not tech savvy. My question is, okay, the apartment that I live in Silver Spring, and about back in the end of October, some kids had busted the front door to the building open. And the reason I know this, because I was in my living room, it was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I just heard something hitting my door. And I was like, what is that? You know, a couple of tenants had moved, and I thought maybe somebody was still moving, you know, items in the building, because it sounded like metal. So when I looked at my people, I could see the kids, they had already shattered the side of the door. That's what I was hearing, the pieces of glass hitting my door. And then just as I looked through the people, it looked like a big bowling ball coming in the middle of the door. They had thrown a huge rock. And so it busted the door. I didn't call the police. I thought to call the police. I said, well, by the time the police come, they'll be gone. And then if this were 10 or 15 years ago, yeah, I may have called the police, but now I had second thoughts as well. I don't want to put myself on, you know, I just didn't want to put myself out there. So I did call around to the rental office. They sent the maintenance guys. When I told them, I said, you know, these kids, they would look to be elementary to middle school age. Again, I saw it through the peephole, and then I went in my bedroom because my bedroom windows face the building. So I could see, you know, it was a group of them. And so I called the office. I told them what had happened. They said, did you make a police report? I said, no. I said, you can make a police report. So they sent the maintenance guy around. He cleaned up the mess. And they have, and let me just add that the Montgomery County inspectors have come since then. They have done a re-inspection, and the glass is still not in the door. And this is January now. That was like the end of October. So I'm just wondering if the—
Is this a door that is connected to the outside?
Yeah, it's the entrance door to the building.
All right. Well, let us know about that. We will help expedite that if it needs to be. They should get on that quickly, much quicker than that.
Let me ask you this, though. Okay, if the county inspectors came, they would have notated that, or they should have, right?
It should be there should be a case filed. What was the date of this?
Oh, well, it happened the end of October when these kids did this. The inspectors came, I want to say I think they came in November, but they came to re-inspect because we got a general notice saying they were coming back.
Yeah,
they didn't find any violation.
No excuse for weeks or months. I can understand a few days, but a door to the outside that is still broken and accessible to the outside is a security risk. And if they know about it, they should be on it already.
Well, it's not a secure building anyway. Let me add that. It's not like a secure, but I mean, just the glass not in the door at all, none at all. You know,
that's a problem. They have to fix that.
Yeah,
and I don't understand why it hasn't been done. And we know how to work this code department and the property management on an issue like this. So just send an email to us at info@rentersalliance.org and let us know if you have it, who the code inspector was, who is on top of this, and we will follow up.
But I don't know who that was. They didn't find any violation in my apartment, but he sent a general notice. I'm sorry, I had to step away from they sent a general notice saying that they were coming back to re-inspect what they did find.
Well, on that notice should have been some contact information or a case number. But either way, Carla, send us the information about the building you're talking about. And, you know, if you have the name of the inspector, let us know and we'll follow up.
And what is the email address again? I'm sorry. Oh, I see it. I see
Info,
it.
INFO.
I
like
see it in the
information.
chat.
Yeah.
Thank
Info,
you.
there it is.
Thank you.
Okay. We are down to our last minute here, and I want to make sure if there's anybody who has a burning question or concern that we got to you, please unmute yourself if you haven't had a chance to speak, and speak up. And if there's two of you, we'll choose one.
Hi, this is Dee Jones. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're not
Oh,
the
perfect.
Jones we were thinking you might be. Good to hear from
Yes.
you.
Gotcha. Happy New Year, everybody. Have a real quick question for you. I'm asking this question for people in my apartment building. I live in a 62 and over community, and I didn't know if Montgomery County had any laws about having certain breeds of dogs in the building. We have new tenants here that have 1 or 2 pit bulls. My family's had pit bulls. We know that they can be very loving animals. So I'm not against pit bulls myself, but we have people in the building that are in wheelchairs, walkers, canes. They're moving very slow, and these dogs are making people uncomfortable. So I didn't know if there were any laws in Montgomery County, and we're in a garden apartment. There may be about 120, 130 people in the building. So I thought I'd ask that question. Thank you very much.
Again, none of us are lawyers, but we've been doing this for a long time. To my knowledge, there is no such law. The operating enforcement would be what the lease says. If they allow for pets in the building, and there is no restriction about the size of the dog or whether cats or dogs are permitted or whether parakeets are permitted or whatever, if there's no specific restriction, then there's no restriction on the dog. However, it is my educated guess that if the dog presents itself in any way as being dangerous, that is, it has attacked somebody or has demonstrated that it is aggressive, it is an issue for animal control.
Okay.
And possibly for the property management to have to deal with that. But I don't know of any law unless it is a pet-free building and someone has a pet against the rules of the building, that would be something that's enforceable.
I know you can have pets, and I think there is a weight limit of 40 pounds. And I don't know, I haven't weighed the dog, so I don't know. It's just all muscle. So, but yeah, I don't know. We can have animals, cats and dogs. And we do have little dogs here as well. But there's a 40-pound limit, but I don't know. I don't even know if the managers know that the dogs are in the building. I'm not sure of that.
Unless somebody were to make a complaint that would require someone to weigh the dog, I don't know any other enforcement. And by the way, it would have to be something in writing, not just, kind of,
Okay.
sort of, but it has to be something, the real deal there. But I'm sympathetic to anyone who is afraid of a large dog, especially if you're disabled and in a wheelchair and, pit bulls. They can be loving. They can also love to bite.
Right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank
You
you for
bet,
all that
Ms.
you do.
Jones.
Thank you.
Anybody else we didn't get to who has a question or concern? Going once. Going twice. Then I want to say Happy New Year to everybody. We have a lot going ahead in 2024. The top priority in our legislative agenda is to pass just cause eviction protection in the state of Maryland. Right now, with just 60 days notice, a landlord can determine that they don't want to renew the lease. They don't have to say why. And they can, with 60 days notice, they say they want you out. There's very little defense for that. And we see landlords using that approach to eviction as a way to retaliate, as a way to discriminate, as a way to target people who are low income. And it is absolutely unjust. If a person is to be evicted from their home, there should be a stated justifiable reason. Delegate Janelle Wilkins is putting forward legislation that doesn't even enact that protection. All it does is say that the local municipalities will then have the right to enact it if they so choose. The reason why it has to happen at the state level is because eviction law is state law. So they have to give permission to the local jurisdictions to pass it if they so choose. So stay tuned for that. If you'd like to testify or support that campaign to get that legislation passed, let us know. Other than that, again, Happy New Year. Be healthy. And we'll see you again at our next Renter Town Hall.